The story begins in a world where many people possess magical powers. We see a girl named Nory who, since childhood, always felt different from the other children. But one day something strange happened, and her life changed completely. When she was 7 years old, she was looking out of her bedroom window at her neighbors. Suddenly, her eyes fell on a cat standing in the garden. At that very moment, whiskers began to grow on her face, and she transformed exactly into that cat. Just then, her father entered the room, and suddenly wings sprouted from Nory's back. And finally, Nory discovered her special ability. 6 years after this incident, Nory was about to go to Sage Academy with her best friend, the most famous magical school in the country. Nory's best friend Reyna had the ability to control fire. She had great talent, but she lacked confidence in herself, which often held her back. However, Nory always reminded her that she could achieve anything she wanted. On the other hand, Nory herself could not control her powers properly. Whenever she tried to take the form of an animal, she often ended up mixing 2 or 3 animals together and creating a strange hybrid. A few weeks later, Nory and Reyna arrived at the bus stop with the other children to go to Sage Academy. Suddenly, a strange man stepped out from behind a tree and said he had come to take all the children to their new magical school. The children said goodbye to their parents and followed the man into the forest. After walking for a while, they found a portal that would take them directly to Sage Academy. Bud was the first to step into the portal, and soon Nory, Reyna, and the rest of the children followed as soon as they arrived. They realized their phones were not working. Shortly after, the school's principal, Linda, appeared before them and announced that the children would be divided into 5 categories according to their abilities. The first group was fuzzies, children who could communicate with animals. The next group was flickers, who could pull objects toward themselves using their hands. Then came the flares, who could control fire. The fourth group was flyers, who could fly in the air. And the fifth group was shifters, who could transform into animals. Before classes began, all the children had to take a test so the professors could examine their powers and assign them to groups. The first test was for the flares. They were asked to light a candle placed 2 meters away. A boy named Philip went in first, and after his test, the principal gave him a card and asked him to wait outside. When Elliot's turn came, he could not light the candle because smoke came out of his hand instead of a spark. The professors were disappointed. Finally, it was Reyna's turn. She was the most talented among them and managed to light the candle using just her little finger. Next was the fuzzies test. They had to talk to a dog and answer questions based on what it said. If they understood the dog correctly, they would pass. In the third test, some children had to pull a flower pot toward themselves using their power. But when a girl named Pepper tried, she accidentally pushed the pot away instead, and it crashed into the wall. She was rejected. Then came the flying test. The children had to stay 1 meter above the ground for 30 seconds. When a boy named Andre took off his heavy bag, he suddenly shot up and stuck to the ceiling. He had no control over his powers and could not come down. The professors had to use ladders to rescue him. Finally, it was Nory's group's turn. They had to look at a cat and transform exactly like it for 6 seconds. But when Nory tried, within 2 seconds, wings sprouted from her back. The professors were shocked. Once again, Nory had lost control of her power. After the test, she also received a card like the others. When all the tests were over, the children gathered in a field to open their cards and find out their groups. Reyna saw that she had been placed in the flares group and was extremely happy. But when Nory opened her card, she saw that instead of shifters, it said UDM. She had no idea what that meant. The principal then instructed all the children to go to the cafeteria to collect their group uniforms. But Nory had to follow the path marked with the UDM symbol. She said goodbye to Reyna and walked through the forest until she reached the UDM headquarters. Bud welcomed her and led her into a hall built underground. Inside the classroom, Nory met other children who, like her, had failed the magical tests. These children were not taught magic. Instead, they were taught like ordinary children across the country. Hearing this, Nory became very angry and asked why they could not learn magic like the others. At that moment, Principal Linda arrived and explained that UDM stood for Upside Down Magic. These were children who had not received proper magical powers, and their abilities were considered useless. Linda said they would never be able to use their magic correctly, so it was better for them to live like normal children until they forgot their magic completely. After that, they could return to the real world and study. With ordinary kids, Batlinde also revealed that in 19,389, because of a boy named Regan Roberts, this rule had been created. He had fallen victim to shadow magic, a dark form of magic used only to harm others. To stop him, the professors and students had trapped him inside a secret book. Shadow magic could not work without entering a human body. Linda disclosed that shadow magic always targeted UDM children, which was why they were kept separate and forbidden from using magic. That same day, the selected children began their group classes. Raina learned that in a few weeks, the annual Founders Day function would take place. In this program, 5 new students would get the chance to perform their magic in front of the entire academy. Each professor would select 2 of the best students from their group, and the winner would perform at the function. Professor Argan took her first flares class and asked Raina to turn corn into popcorn using her power. Raina was nervous but managed well at first. However, Philip mocked her magic, making her anxious, and suddenly all the popcorn burned. Argan scolded her harshly. Outside the room, a second-grade girl named Chandra watched everything and smiled. The next morning, Bud took his students to the garden and said he had a surprise. When he opened a shed, Nory saw some brooms and became excited, thinking they would learn to fly on them. But when she tried, she fell to the ground. They were ordinary brooms meant for cleaning the garden. While sweeping, Nory reached the area where other children were having class. She saw a professor teaching them how to transform into a special kind of cat. Soon, she heard that one child would get to perform at Founders Day. At that moment, an idea sparked in her mind. She decided to practice her magic and impress everyone so Linda would allow her. To learn magic with the others, Nory made an excuse and closely examined the cat, memorizing its every movement so she could replicate it perfectly. But once again, she lost control and turned into a strange hybrid creature. The professor immediately called Bud to control her before the principal found out. Later, at lunch, Nory told her friends that she had carefully studied the cat and now just needed to practice transforming properly. Meanwhile, when Raina saw Nory, she went to meet her, but Miss Argan stopped her, saying children from different groups were not allowed to mix dot in the next class. Philip successfully made popcorn again and was declared the best student. Later in the corridor, Chandra approached Raina and praised her magical abilities. Before leaving, she said that if Raina wanted to improve her powers, she could help her. That night, Raina studied in the library to become the best in her class. When she went to return a book, a black book suddenly fell from the shelf by itself. It was the Shadow Magic book. As soon as she opened it, all the lights went out. Realizing her mistake, she quickly put it back and left. But soon she noticed that the book was following her. Meanwhile, in her hostel, Nory was practicing transforming into a cat with her friends. But no matter how hard she tried, after 3 seconds, she would again turn into multiple mixed animals. The next day, when Raina looked out the window and saw Nory with her new friends, she felt a little sad because she thought Nory had forgotten about her. Just then, the Shadow Magic book suddenly appeared on its own, and its pages began turning by themselves. They stopped at a chapter that taught a technique to unlock the hidden powers within. As soon as Raina started reading that chapter, a dark cloud began circling around her and immediately entered her body. A few hours later, all the new students gathered in a hall. They had come to watch the competition between the 2 best students from each class. First, it was the Flares' turn, where Philip and Raina stood face to face. Philip was confident that he would icily win the competition, but Raina prepared perfect popcorn even before the given time. When Professor Argan tasted the popcorn, she was extremely happy because it was absolutely perfect. In the end, Raina was chosen from the Flares to perform her magic at the annual Founders Day. At that very moment, Nory also arrived there and said that she had been practicing for days to fix her magic. She asked for one last chance to prove herself and instantly transformed into a cat. Professor Han was timing her, but after just 4 seconds, wings once again sprouted from Nory's back and she lost control of her powers. She became extremely nervous and started transforming continuously into strange, bizarre animals. Seeing this, Raina tried to calm her friend down. But after reading the Shadow Magic book, Raina's powers had multiplied many times. and she also lost control over her fire. Because of this, a massive fireball formed, and Nory was almost about to be sacrificed in it when suddenly she returned to her original form. Reyna immediately apologized to her, and Bud supported Nory. Seeing all of this, Principal Linda harshly scolded Bud and told him to control his students or else he would lose his job. After that, Nory and her friends returned to the UDM headquarters. They were extremely sad because now they had lost hope of ever using magic again in their lives. Then we find out that many years ago, Bud himself had been in their place, meaning he too had been a UDM student. He felt bad for these children, so he gathered them in the forest and said that he was not happy with this job anyway. He was tired of watching UDM children's dreams break. Therefore, he decided to train them to accept their special abilities and use them properly. Suddenly, Bud began to sing, and understanding his language, many animals from the forest came toward him. It was then revealed that Bud was also a fuzzy category UDM student. Seeing this, all the children realized that they were not alone. Bud did not talk to animals like others. Instead, he communicated with them by singing. In reality, he had been secretly practicing his magic so that he would not forget it. Now, he promised the 4 children that he would train them in their magic, starting the next morning. Later, while returning, Nory kept thinking about what had happened earlier that day. She realized that something was definitely wrong with Reyna's magic. To find out the real reason, she decided to meet Reyna. Meanwhile, when Reyna reached her room, Chandra was standing there holding the shadow magic book. Chandra said that it was because of this book that her powers had increased so much today. Reyna realized that because of this book, her best friend Nory had almost lost her life. In anger, she told Chandra to leave the room. But after Chandra left, the book magically appeared in her room again on its own. When Reyna angrily opened the door, Nory was standing there. At that very moment, Reyna hugged her. But to make sure that Nory would not discover the truth about the Shadow Manual, Reyna had to send her away from the room. The next morning, as promised, Bud began training his team. First, he tied a pipe around Andre's waist and told him to try to stop himself at the same level. Andre removed the bag from his back and started flying upward, but he still could not come down on his own. However, as the training progressed, the children slowly began accepting their unique traits. Now, they did not want to become the same kind of magician as everyone else. During this time, a deep friendship also formed among them, and gradually they learned to control their magic a little better. Elliot began shaping the smoke that came out of his hands, and Pepper learned to push anything away using her power. As for Nory, instead of forcing herself to turn into just one animal, she began combining 3 or 4 animals at the same time to create new forms. On the other hand, Reyna was watching her classmates having fun when Chandra once again appeared before her. Reyna shouted at her to go away. But now, Reyna had already used the book, which meant the 2 of them had become one. When the others asked Reyna who she was talking to, it was revealed that only Reyna could see Chandra. Reyna immediately ran toward her room, but Chandra continued to disturb her. She knew that Reyna had no idea about the true strength of the powers hidden inside her. Chandra told her that her magic was far more powerful than that of any child present there. Eventually, Reyna's desire to remove the fear inside her and obtain her true powers grew stronger. Influenced by Chandra's words, she surrendered herself to shadow magic. Within moments, Nory arrived there and realized that Reyna was under the shadow of an evil force. This meant that shadow magic did not target only UDM children. Now, under the influence of dark powers, Reyna said in a savage voice that soon the entire school would be destroyed. She warned that if Nory valued her life, she should run away. Nory immediately ran to Professor Bud and told him everything. Nory's friends decided to inform the principal about the truth, but Bud said that Linda would never believe them. So he told the children to wait until the next day. He was sure that the evil spirit would attack on the annual Founders' Day. The next morning, all the students and professors gathered in the garden. Linda called Reyna onto the stage to demonstrate her magic. At first, while sitting in her place, Reyna used fire to write words in the air to welcome everyone. Then she stood up and said she had prepared something special for today. Suddenly, she created a massive fireball in her hand, and her shadow grew larger, spreading across the entire garden. From within it came a terrifying voice that declared it had returned after years of waiting. Hearing this, The professors realized that this was the same spirit that had possessed Reginald years ago. Everyone understood that shadow magic did not only prey on UDM children to stop the monster from destroying everything. Professor Argan and her students attacked it with a giant fireball, but it had no effect. Then, on the principal's orders, the Fuzzies called animals to fight the monster, but they ran away in fear. After that, the shifters changed their forms to attack it, but they had taken shapes of animals that could not harm it at all. Now, all hope seemed lost. Finally, the UDM children stepped forward. Pepper pushed the monster back with tremendous force using her hands. Elliot created a wall of smoke so the monster could not see. Andre flew into the air to distract it. Meanwhile, Nory transformed into a terrifying creature and prepared to attack. At last, Linda ordered all the children to combine their powers and charge at the monster together. But Nory stopped everyone from coming near it. She knew that behind the monster was her best friend, Reyna. She put her own life at risk so that Reyna could regain control over the monster. The monster was just about to attack and finish Nory when suddenly a powerful explosion of fire burst out from inside it, and the monster was reduced to ashes on the spot. Nory saw that Reyna had finally been freed from shadow magic. She breathed a sigh of relief and hugged Reyna tightly. In the end, the UDM children together saved Sage Academy from destruction. From that day on, the UDM program was cancelled. Now the UDM children began learning to use their special magic alongside the others, and Bud was promoted to a full-fledged professor who would now teach children different ways to communicate with animals. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.